So this data which is available to you, okay, and has to be, when it is sent to a central server, it has to be analyzed, right? So the main agenda for getting all of this data is to do a certain analysis and to find out, right? So in this case, it can be, if I want to find who are the bad truck drivers, okay? So my bad truck drivers would be something who is continuously crossing the speed limit, right? Yes or no? Who would be
Yep.
continuously driving onto a oil level which has oil level has become down to a central, to from a certain threshold. So he is still driving it. Okay, so all of these are the bad drivers for me. Are you guys agreeing to it?
Yep.
So if I have to analyze those data, right? So I would need to do certain kind of analysis. Yes or no? Right? So this analysis, when I'm trying to do, okay, so this is a huge amount of data which will be generated, right? So in order to analyze this huge amount of data, again, you would need a more of a big data technologist to process that data. Your normal tools or a normal warehouse solution, data warehouse solution will not be able to solve this problem, okay? Again, when you see the application of a Hadoop or a big data is going to increase. Okay, the next I was reading about Internet of Things, and it says that it will almost change 6 million jobs. Okay, it will just obsolete the old jobs. Okay, and it will have a lot of jobs coming into the Internet of Things and the big data side. Okay, the opportunities, as I just was talking about, right? So Internet of Things is the next thing to come. And if you guys are aware of the big data, okay, you are almost very easy to understand the Internet of Things also. Okay, if you see this, the solution is based in Internet of Things, you will predominantly working with a big data solution. Okay, because you always have to process that data. Okay, there would be another set of job where we'll for the data acquisitions. Okay, and for the firmware and all of these things in Internet of Things, because you still have to develop the sensors, because all of this has to send the data to certain sensors, right? So all of things would be there, and then there will be a lot of opportunities on the big data space. And as a testing, how do we pitch in? Okay, where all we can pitch in? And we pitch it into a firmware testing. If you guys are interested, yes, the space is open. How the data moves from here to here? There are certain protocols, right? So there are certain way of networking, right? So that also, if you guys are very much interested, that is another area of pitching into. Right? Okay. But coming back, this is the area where we will be focusing on. Okay. So the processing, analysis, and all about it. Okay. Right. There is something called IoT analytics. Has anybody heard about IoT analytics?
Yep.
Okay. So so as somebody was saying, right? So they have heard about the IoT analytics also, right? So that is another area where you predominantly work with the big data and all. Right? So let's come back. Okay, so examples and all. So this is how what is big data, right? So have we talked about it? So it's basically a very large data set. Okay, and there are certain examples, New York Stock Exchange and what we have done, and then there's certain thing which there are certain predictions, right? That 40 zettabytes of data will be generated, created by 2020. That is 300 times from 2005. What is zettabytes? Zettabytes is 10 raised to power 21. Okay, and this is what it gets converted to. 1,000 million is equal to 1 zettabyte. Okay, so basically this is the conversion from zettabyte to gigabytes of a data. Okay, and when you are generating this huge amount of data, right? So your existing solutions or existing systems will not be able to process this kind of a data. Okay, you cannot go beyond terabytes of a data, even with the best of the technologies which are available right now. Okay, so maybe you're talking about data warehouse solution. Okay, so somebody is already working on data warehouse solutions. Can you give me how much of a data are you dealing with? Anybody who is working on a ETL or a data warehouse project? Can you guys tell me what is the size of data you guys are dealing with? Okay. I'm not getting any answers. While you figure out the numbers and put it on the chat box, let me proceed. Okay. So just imagine that, right? You would not be dealing with certain terabytes of the data. Okay. So that is what I am expecting. And maybe not in a terabyte also, it would be like zero point 0.5 terabytes. Okay. It would be like 500 GBs of the data. That's what I would like to say. Okay. Or somebody might be working with a more data set. Okay. Maybe a 1 GB or a 2 GB or 1 TB or a 2 TB of data set. Right? But when you have this kind of a data set which is into petabytes and zettabytes and so on and so forth, you would the traditional technologies is not sufficient to process that huge amount of the data, right? So that is where the big data falls in, right? So that is how you call as a big data, and that is really a big data. In typical basically a benchmarking or a threshold, somewhere around 1 petabyte of a data or more than 1 petabyte of a data is considered to be as a big data. Okay, it has to be more than 1 petabyte of a data. Okay, that is what the normal technology goes, normal terminology goes when you're talking about a big data, right? So anything, if you're dealing with more than 1 petabyte, then you're dealing with a petabyte, or then you're dealing with a basically a big data. Okay, right? So what are the other characteristics? We have discussed with the volume and the characteristics. Okay, but there are other characteristics. Okay, so there are characteristics like variety and velocity. Okay, and this is how IBM defines a big data. Okay, and basically IBM says these are the three characteristics of a big data. Okay, which is volume, variety, and the velocity. Okay, so we'll come back to variety and velocity. But if you see this, velocity is the rate at which data is really growing. Okay, maybe you started with something where your data growth is not so much, but over a period of time, the data has become the rate at which the data has grown is very huge, and then the rate at which you need to do a processing also has to be very faster, right? It switches back to the volume. Okay, if you think in another term, but just think about it, the rate at which it is growing. Okay, and it also includes the processing, because if you have a data which is growing at a very big rate, okay, or the rate is very high, okay, you would also need a certain kind of processing capability, okay, that is to process much faster and to make up a decision. There is another very important thing is the variety. Okay, so what is the variety? Okay, so let's quickly see back to go back and see. If you have seen the traditional database storage, okay, so all of you are working with database, I hope. Anybody not working with a database?
I'm not working with the database.
You're not working with a database, okay? Okay, right. So somebody who is not working with a database, okay, right. So see what happens whenever you're trying to, okay, right. But at least you know tables. Okay, if you're not working with exhaustive with the database, are you guys aware of a table? Okay, great. So that is the basic thing you need. Okay. So in a database, okay, so when we talk about a database, so there are entities, okay, entities relationship, and entities are nothing but a table. Okay. That is what the high level thing. Maybe when we go into detail, we'll have another terminology, okay, or another bifurcation. But less for simplicity, just take entity as a table. Okay. So let's see, you have an entity students. Okay, students is your entity. Now, what information you wanted to store about a student? Okay, so maybe you would like to store the student ID, name, right, location. Right? So these are the three information. Okay, let's assume these are the three set of information which you're going to store into your column, right? All every field or fields or the information you wanted to store has to be go into a separate column, right? Okay. So if I have a student's table, okay, this table is having a three data set, three fields, and this fields will go, the values for this field will go on to a rows, right? That is what we call as a rows, fields, and and table, right? Now, if you just think about this, students, right? So if you see there is a predefined structure, okay? When we say ID, okay, ID has to be an integer, okay? I also define name. Say I can say my name is varchar, oops, okay? Oh my God, varchar 20, okay? And let's say the location is also a character, okay? Right. Now, when you have this defined, these are called the schemas. Okay. So you people who are not from the data warehouse background, just for simplicity, these are called the schemas, right? And whenever I'm trying to create a table, okay, so these are all of the things which you need to have it, right? So when you say create table or any DDL statement, okay, so all of this has to be the schema which we are talking about, right? So it just has to be predefined whenever you're creating a table, right? But what happens, right? What exactly happens? When you try to store any data and then I have defined this as schema and then I have a certain value which comes as B001, okay? And I wanted to store this as an ID, okay? So this is my value, okay? Oops, okay? And then I have a name, let's say Kumar, okay, and then location is Chennai, okay, right? So this is my data set, okay, and then I have my another data set, okay, which is 001, okay, and let's say Abhijit, okay, right, and from Bangalore, okay, let's assume that, okay. So this I have the two data set. When I try to load this two data set, what will happen? When I'm trying to load this data set, will this two data set gets loaded successfully? Yeah, ID type is integer. So which one of the data will get loaded and which data set will not get loaded?
The one with Bangalore will get loaded. I think so. No idea.
Oh, okay, great, right? So yeah, somebody said second will get loaded, first will not. Okay, right. Okay. So this one will get loaded, right? So why yes, why? Okay, and this one will not get loaded. This will be rejected, right? Because the reason is it's more structured data, right? And if you see this lot of data which you are dealing with in any of your application, this data sets are more structured, okay? And they follow a certain pattern, okay? And if you see, if I have another row which is having a 4 column, okay, will that data get loaded? That will also not get loaded, right? So you have defined the structure, okay, and say for example, I have to do this, okay, 002, and then I say Madhuri, okay, and then say US, okay, and then finally I have some more information, okay, which is predominantly to what courses you are taking, right? So say for example Hadoop course, right? So if I have this information also, will this data get loaded?
No.
Okay,
Might be no.
okay. So people who are saying might be, okay, so just try it out into the insert a statement into your relational database management system, okay. So it's a simple no. Okay. If I have to load this data, okay, what I need to do? If I have to load this data, what steps I need to do? Add one more column, right? So add one. So people are giving me answer add more column. And when I say add more column, okay, what does that mean? It means I'm running an alter statement. I'm running an alter statement on my table, right? Yes or no? Right, great. Right? Now, see, have you ever thought about a table which is having, say, for example, 10 million row count? What is, have you, okay, so my question would simply like this. What is the maximum number of rows in a table that you guys have built with? Anybody can tell me. Okay, so maximum count.
Yeah, several thousands.
Several thousands. Okay. How about others? Around 1500. Okay. Greater than 1 million. Okay, so I got one answer because now this is the data warehouse back. This is what the ETL people will tell me, right? So basically, I got an answer from one person who's doing an ETL, and in ETL we never talk about thousands. Okay, so when we talk about a big data, we talk about petabytes. Okay, and when we talk about tables, right? We always will talk about more than 1 million. Okay, that is what what we change it when we're talking about a data, right? But people who are from the web background website, they will all talk about 1500, 1000, more than 5000, 10,000. Okay, but definitely data set and what we will be dealing would be something like this. Okay, because it is again a data warehousing kind of thing. You do might have a certain transaction table. Say for example, Flipkart is your online system, right? So where we can buy and sell, right? So basically what you do in a Flipkart, it's a retail site, right? So if I have to do a orders table, okay, I just have to see the orders table. What would be roughly the size of this orders table? How many rows would be there roughly in the orders table? Okay, let's take one thing. Okay, let's say I have a 1 million user in Flipkart. Okay, and over a period of okay 1 million user I'm talking about. Okay, and every user it at least will do 5 orders in a period of 3 to 4 months. Uh, is it a good assumption? 5 orders per user. Is it a good assumption?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So I have a 1 million user and 5 orders each user. How many rows would be there in the orders table? It would be 5 million, correct, right? So what we are talking about in a retail application, whenever you have a transaction related data, right? So whenever you have a transaction related data and we are talking about a certain table, it will have a 5 million rows. Okay, if you're talking about that table size, right? And somebody has to run an alter statement on this table. Okay, what would be the performance of the system? How long will it take to alter this table which is having a 5 million rows? Has anybody run the alter statement? Tried running it? Okay, great. So why we came over here is because the performance is another aspect of a testing, okay, and which we have to take into consideration, right? So we cannot run an alternate statement, right? So if you talk to your database administrator DB and say, okay, I have this table, he will say I need a two days of downtime, okay, to run this script, right? And you don't want to hit that business continuity, right? So you basically don't want to stop the business for 2 days because I just have to run the alter statement, right? So when we are talking about a big data, right? So all the data schema would change day in, day out, right? It would not be like this fixed schema. If you can see a simple case of a flip from a Facebook, right? Do you think we can make a constraint of how much characters one can type in the post? I can type thousands, right? Thousands. Some people can write 5,000 also, right? There is no constraints on the post. You can tag it, right? So you can tag it, you can recommend it, and so on and so forth. Right? So the schema is day in and day out changing, okay? Because the space they are in, right? So they have to frequently do certain innovation. They cannot stick with this. They cannot stick with the with a frame, okay? They have to keep on exploring, and if they have to keep on exploring, they cannot do like this. Every time they do something, they have to do the alter. Your system, your Facebook would be down for a week. Okay, if you still have to do alter on that, okay, right? And if they are using they are using something which is a relational database management system, okay, right? So in order to, since it's structure, okay, or since the variety of the data is changing, right, it is predominantly into a big data category. Okay, so that is why I was coming to a variety, because you have a variety of a data. The schema is changing day in and day out, right? So today Facebook is coming up with something called apps, right? So tomorrow it will come with with chat plus voice, right? So on and so forth. They are changing day in and day out, right? So they cannot keep on changing the database structure around that, right? So this is how IBM defines the big data concept. Okay, so there are certain examples. I think we don't have much time to take up this quiz. Okay, but if you guys want to just say that, okay. So these are certain kind of a data structure, okay, or unstructured data which we'll be talking about. Okay, in a variety, when I'm talking about a variety, this is a structured data set, okay, which deals with the RDBMS system. There is something called unstructured data set, okay, and there is something called semi-structured data set, okay. What is this semi-structured data set? Semi-structured data set, when we're talking about it, okay. Semi-structured data set, if you just take an example, XML would be a semi-structured data set, okay, because you can define the text, okay, for a structure, okay, and you can also there is no limit on the text, right? So you basically, if you have a tag and you want to write something, you can just keep on writing it. So I'm going a little fast because we don't have a lot of time left, okay? And I wanted to also show you the course curriculum, okay, before we go into more of a Q&A, right? Right. So this is my course curriculum. Okay. So have you guys understood this variety, volume, and velocity? Can we go to the course curriculum?
Yep.
Okay. Right. Right. So this is my course curriculum. Okay. And basically what we will be going through. Okay. It's 24 hours duration of the course curriculum. Okay. And it's sort of finalized. Let me just, I have to see if something is left over here on the additional detail, but this is kind of finalized. Okay. So we'll go ahead with this on the big data characteristics, use cases in big data, right? So couple of classes would be more of a testers roles and the problem and solution space where I'll talk about what are the different use cases and so on and so forth, right? And the first day would be more about the course syllabus, that what we'll be dealing in now. Okay. If you have any questions, queries, and the teaching methodologies, okay. Then day 3 we'll talk about the pillars of Hadoop. Okay, the core pillar of a Hadoop. Okay, so basically what are the core components of a Hadoop? Okay, and we'll dwell into the practical aspects. Wherever the practicals, if you can see here, this is more like hands-on. I'll show you the hands-on onto the infrastructure, and you can also work on this infrastructure and all. Okay. And then we will go into, if it extends for 2 classes, then we will take one more class to go into the MapReduce. Okay. So basically, MapReduce, where we'll be talking about how do you start working with a MapReduce, right? How do you start testing it out with a MapReduce, right? What MapReduce does, right? And then you basically go to the testing a little later, right? Basically, we talk about it. We do explore something, okay, on the MapReduce concepts and all, and then we'll talk about the practicals in the next class, where we'll talk about a specific example, right? And a practical associated with that. Then there are certain courses on Unix basics and data warehouse. Okay, these are the 2 sessions which I'll take to a refresher, because you would have to work with a Unix environment, right? So all of this has to be, Hadoop is predominantly on the Unix environment. So Unix basics, I will be covering it, okay, and I'll be telling a lot of commands and all which are more handy and which you can use for your testing purpose and data creation purpose and so on and so forth. Then we'll talk about certain data warehouse architecture. Is it okay if I take 5 or 10 more minutes of your time?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Great. So then we come into scoop, and scoop I will cover the architecture, the basics, and then we'll go ahead with certain practicals on the scoop. Okay, and then we will then the next class will be on the flow, which I'll go into the architecture, the configuration, a simple example. Again, that would be a practical to show you. Then we'll go into the hive, where I'll talk about basically the practicals and so on and so forth. Right, and then there are certain more sections on the hive. Hive is predominantly used, so we have multiple sections on the hive over here, right? Then we go into the pig basics, and we'll talk about all the pigs use cases, practicals, and so on and so forth, right? Then then we will cover the advanced sessions, right? So basically we have covered the scoop overview, Flume overview, because but all of this tool has to be worked collaboratively, right? So Hadoop is not a one tool, okay? So right now I'm talking about 5 or 6 tools, okay, which I'll be training you, right? So apart from the Unix and the data warehousing concepts. So if you see this Hadoop is predominantly more onto a multiple tool sets and all, okay, and each of the tool sets has its own benefits, okay, and Hadoop itself does not work in silos, okay, it has to work with all of these tools. So I have covered a couple of tools, 4 and 5, 4 tools, okay, apart from the basics, HDFS and the MapReduce. So we have to go into advanced sessions where we'll talk about how do you do an incremental type of a load in the scoop, okay. Again, all of you who are not from the ETL background, okay, they have to know that there is something called, after this session you will know what is the incremental ETL and what is a full ETL and all those things. So day 7 would be more of a ETL basics and all of those things. Scoop more of an example, and how do you work with a different kind of a data set, right? So there are data set like Glob and Blob, okay, which are more using more how do you deal with kind of those kind of data sets and all. Then there is something on the hive, we will cover on the hive practicals, more on the hive advanced side, okay, when we're talking about if you have a JSON file, right? So maybe all of you are aware of what is a JSON file, right? I hope all of you are aware of the JSON file, right? Because predominantly when you're working with a data with a web application and all, you will be dealing with this kind of this thing, JSON files and all. So how do you go about using those for your into the Hadoop, right? So basically that is what we will be looking into. Then there are certain more things on the hive, okay, and then we'll go into the pig, more of a pig, how to create a streaming parallelism, okay. Calling out this name will not make a sense, because as I said, right, so all of you are very new to it, okay. Maybe Madhuri can talk to her husband and talk about all of this thing, but people who have heard about it, we will cover all of these things in detail. Pig, hive, then we'll cover something called which is called as the H catalog, okay. Then we will cover Flume Advanced, okay, and then we will cover some more on the PIC, okay, and then there is a project, okay, which we'll try to cover it, okay. There is no practicals for the project, so what we will cover is basically overview and how to go about it, and how these tools, right? So whatever we are discussed, okay, how do we go about integrating those tools and trying to do an end-to-end picture using the test cases, writing test cases, and all of these things, right? So I'll talk about writing a sample validation test cases and so on and so forth. Okay? Um, so that's it from my side. I would like to take up some questions. Okay, so I think we are extended by 5 minutes. We will. I'm open for the questions now.
Okay. Kumar, you will not. Kumar, you will not cover Storm and Kafka.
No, I'll not cover Storm and Kafka.
Okay.
Okay, but just to answer your question, okay, on the Kafka, okay, Storm is out of the picture. I'm not gonna cover that. Okay, I will cover Flume. Okay, and Flume is a real-time data ingestion tool similar to Kafka. But your question is if I will cover Kafka. So no, right now I'm not planning to cover. Okay, until unless it is post project support if you need. Okay, then I can help you. But from the training perspective, I see all of you are new to it. Okay. Okay.
So Vivek, I have a question here. So is testing Hadoop, predominantly performance testing, or is there more to it basically?
Okay, so the question has come, is Hadoop predominantly performance testing? Okay, right. So as I have around 30 to 35 minutes of a session, okay, so what you guys think? Okay, so somebody can tell me, what do you guys think?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Somebody was saying it that Hadoop is a more like a performance testing. I don't know. I didn't get the name. Okay. So do you guys
yeah. So it was me. I didn't mean is Hadoop same as performance testing. I meant is testing in Hadoop predominantly performance testing, or is there more to it basically? So
okay.
Is there some yeah?
So okay, fine. I got the question now. Okay. See, when we are talking about a Hadoop, right? So I'm talking about a data ingestion. Okay. So I'm talking about a data processing. I'm talking about reporting, right? So if you think that I'm talking about end-to-end data flow, okay. I haven't covered the testing thing over here. Okay. I'll cover in the next class. How do we go about writing? What is the testing aspect into that? Okay. But to answer your question, it is more. It is entire end-to-end picture. Okay, so you have a performance, you have a security, you have automation, right? You have a manual, all of this thing. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes. Thanks.
Okay. Right.
Hi, this is Alok here. I just wanted to know that as there are specific courses for dev side or the QA side when we go into certification part. Like for an automation, I went for Selenium, which is specific to automation tester. So is this specific to some developer and tester courses in Hadoop, or is like a generic course and then you can choose a career path as a developer or as a tester?
Okay. Right. So on the certification part, as I mentioned, there are a lot of vendors. Okay. And one of the vendor which I have gone through. Okay. Is Hortonworks. Okay, so basically I have went through their entire 4 days of training, and that is from the vendor directly, and it is pretty expensive training. Okay. What I have, and then I just wanted to go ahead with this training because I wanted to understand, right? So what are the paths for different paths and all, right? For to grow, to do a certification, to project yourself, right? So for a tester, there are no certification in the market. Okay. So there are no certification as such which is predominantly for the testers in the big data or the Hadoop space. Okay. Uh, so I was just trying to understand why it is so. So I basically framed out this something in my mind and talked with multiple people. Okay, this says I see if you see these technologies, right? So the technology is growing at a very faster rate, right? When I'm talking about Selenium, right? Selenium is a single tool, right? You guys agree to that,
Yes.
right? Now I'm talking about a Hadoop. Okay, do you think Hadoop is a single tool?
No.
No.
Right, right. So as I said, right, somebody was saying, Kumar, will you cover Storm? Kumar, you will cover Kafka, right? Somebody else will come. Kumar, you will cover Spark. Kumar, you will cover Scala, right? And what I'm covering is a part of tools, right? There are so many tools which are there. Okay, if you just think about it, there are 20 to 25 different tools. Okay, and I know some of them. I have worked with Scala. I have worked with Spark. I have also worked with Kafka. I also have worked with the NoSQL databases like whatever the NoSQL databases, Mongo, HBase, Cassandra, so on and so forth. Right. The reason why we wanted to focus over here is the tool sets are unlimited, okay, and the skill set what you need, okay, it's more like a developer where you can think quickly, learn it, and then try to implement this tool. If you see this, most of the testing in the Hadoop space because it's happening through the developers only, right? And there are a lot of certification predominantly for the developers. Okay, what my course will make you help to clear a certification from Hortonworks. Okay, that is the certification, one of the certification in the Hadoop, which my course is more designed to clear that certification. And again, as I said, it is more like a developer certification. Okay.
Yeah, sure. No, so the thing was that why was it tested like when I'm doing Selenium, so it's more of an open source. So when I'm coding in Java, that means I have to learn end-to-end Java to produce the results. So in the same case, if I'm going for Hadoop also, in that case also I have to learn end-to-end. So it's not a question between developer and tester certification. It's not basically for the approach. So it's not differentiating the approach. So it's basically you have to learn everything and then you can set your path like you wanted to get into Hadoop testing or into Hadoop development, right?
Um, See, one thing I wanted to say over here is, right, so people still see testing, if you see, right, ETL developer, ETL testing, right? So there is a lot of things which is the way you will not do a sampling sort of a testing, okay, like a unit testing which a developer does, okay. You will definitely like to have a more of a skill set when it comes to testing, because that is what the quality will mean, right, from a testing perspective. And when we talk about a data quality, so you need to know certain more things on the data quality side, okay, and you need to learn a different kind of there is slightly differentiation between, because what you know the tool, okay, how do you implement the tool to achieve the objectives or goal of testers, okay. So basically in a data centric thing, we call as a data quality, either we call as a big data quality or you call as a data quality, okay. So basically if you're coming from an ETL background, you'll call as a data quality. If you're coming to the big data, we'll call it big data quality, right? So big data quality is predominantly a set of characteristics, the way you do a testing, and what are the different characteristics of a big data quality. Okay, so when we talk about the testing aspect, as I said, right? So when I come and cover the testing aspects of it, okay, I'll try to cover a lot of these things. Okay.
Okay.
Kumar, in Hadoop testing, do we test data flow also? Because a lot of technologies we are using, right? Zoom and Spark, Kafka, so a lot of streaming will happen, topology will be there. So do we test flow, end-to-end flow also?
We will test the data quality. Okay. So what is the data quality? So you have a data flow. Okay. Okay. and this data flow will move from there is a lineage. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to say, there is a data lineage. Okay, so data lineage is basically a parents to a parents to a parents, right? Something like that, right? So you have a source and then the data moves through the lineage, come to the final destination. So each of the intermediate destination has to be tested. Okay, so that's what it is. So you have to test the destination, okay, to the intermediate layers. Okay, so before I take more of a question, this is the email ID. Okay, all of you can drop in an email. People who are planning to leave because of the time constraints. Okay, I take a last one or two questions, but I would need all of you to ask some questions which will be in the best interest of all the audience. Okay, all right. Last question, last one or two questions, because it is like almost 15 minutes we are offshoot. Okay, so because people would like to leave, everybody would like to leave now. More of a questions, you can just drop an email on this email ID. Okay. So if you guys have no other questions, can we close on this session? And I hope you guys are aware of the next steps and all. Okay. So if you're not aware of the steps and all, just drop an email on this. Okay. Or there is another email address. Okay. You can drop in over here. Okay. It's info@qtpselenium.com. Okay. So this is the email address if you want to take up the course and if you have decided to be on the path of Hadoop. Okay. And if you are very much interested, you can drop in your queries or your email on this two email address. Okay. And to take on the next steps. Even if you are not decided on the path of the Hadoop and if you still have more of a open queries or questions, you can still drop on an email to those email address which I'm highlighting on this. Okay. If you guys want, you can write down this email address. Okay. For the next round of communication. Okay. Okay, guys. Thanks for joining this session. I will also stop the recording now.